Give me a moment. Today we are going to learn about direct and inverse proportion. Direct and inverse proportion. What is direct proportion and what is inverse proportion? Let us take an example. Example 1. Example 1. I will explain this with the help of an example. Think pence and cost. Pence and cost. You go to a stationery shop to buy a few things, a few pens. Suppose one pen cost 10 rupees. How much? One pen
10 rupees.
Cost 10 rupees. Cost of one pen equals 10 rupees. So if you want to buy, suppose 5 pens at once, do you need to pay more than 10 rupees or less than 10 rupees?
More than 10 rupees, sir.
How much?
50, sir.
Cost of 5 pence, you will multiply 10 rupees with 5 and it becomes 50 rupees, right? Notice what happened.
Yes, sir.
Number of pens became more, cost also became more. Number of pens increases, cost also increases, right? Number of pens increases, goes up, cost also increases, goes up. If you decrease the number of pens, if you buy lesser number of pens, you will pay lesser quantity, lesser amount, right?
Yes, sir.
One quantity increases, other quantity increases. Suppose there are two quantities here. Number of pens increases, more pens, more cost, less pens, less cost, right?
Yes, sir.
Now let us take different example. Example 2. Example 2. In this one, consider suppose you have any work to perform, like whitewash, work is whitewashing. Do you understand what is whitewashing?
Yes, sir.
Whitewashing a building. Suppose you have to whitewash your building in which you live. You want to get it whitewashed, so you hire some persons. You hire some persons. Let us say you hired 20 people, 20 persons. How many persons? 20.
20.
You hired 20 persons and they told you they will complete this work in, say, 10 days. 10 days. Okay?
Okay, sir.
But you are in a great hurry. You want your building to be whitewashed only in 5 days, not in 10 days. You want only in 5 days. So number of days decreased or increased?
Decreased.
Okay. Number of days was 10 and you have decreased. You want only 5 days, so it decreased. Do you think number of persons will decrease or increase?
Increase, sir.
So you want to hire more persons, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you want to get the work done in lesser days, lesser number of time, lesser amount of time, you want to hire more persons. You want to hire 40 persons. Notice what happened here. Two quantities. Number of days, number of persons. Number of days decreased, but number of persons increased. Got it? One decreased, other increased. And suppose you say those persons, no, I am not in hurry. I want to whitewash my house in 20 days. 20 days. So you are increasing the days. Earlier it was 10 days, but you are telling, no, I want it in 20 days. Take time. So you want more people than 20 or lesser people than 20?
Yes, sir.
You will need only 10 persons. In 20 days to whitewash the same building. This is what you need to learn. This is what you need to understand. Two quantities. Number of days, number of persons. Number of days increase, persons decrease. Number of days decrease, persons increase. Opposite direction. Notice the first and the second. In this one, person increases, days decreases. If person decreases, days increases. I hope you are understanding this. So these are the two different set of quantities. In the first set, pence cost. If you increase the pence, more pence, more cost. Less pence, lesser pence, lesser cost. But in this, more persons, lesser days. Lesser persons, more days. Opposite, right? So in the first case, these two quantities are in direct proportion. Pence and cost are following direct proportion, but persons and days are following inverse proportion. Inverse, opposite. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Pence and cost are in direct proportion. But here persons and days are in inverse proportion. Any confusion?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's move on to the next page. Now let us understand the rules about solution. Rules of solution. In the first page we saw what is the meaning of direct and inverse proportion. Now we will see how to handle the questions. What are the rules? Rules for direct proportion. Rules for direct proportion. Consider that quantity 1, let us say quantity A, and quantity B are in direct proportion. Then, if quantity A and quantity B are in direct proportion, what will happen? Let us make a table to understand. Quantity A, quantity B, let us say quantity A is having value x1, quantity B has value y1, quantity A has value x2, then quantity B has value y2. You might be thinking, what are these things? x1, y1, x2, y2. Actually, this is similar to the previous case. In the previous example, we saw pence and cost. 1 pen 10 rupees, 5 pence 50 rupees. Just like that, I have taken x1, y1, x2, y2. Just like 110, 520, 550. Okay, so what is the rule? Rule is that ratio remains same. Ratio of what? Ratio of x1, x2 and y1, y2. Okay.
Noted, sir.
Notice here 1, 10. What is the ratio?
1
1 is to 10.
10.
And the ratio between 5 and
5 is
50.
to 15.
What is the ratio?
5 is to 15.
Oh my god. You haven't heard the name ratio? It's very shameful. You say I heard. You are behaving like you haven't heard. It's a very shameful. So ratio of 110 and 550 are same. Notice this second example. What was the ratio between 20 and 40? What was the ratio between 20 and 40? And what was the ratio between 10 and 5? Just opposite. Just opposite. Notice the ratio between 1 and 5. So what is the rule? Rule is that x1 divided by y1. X1 divided by y1. I mean the values in the first line, take the ratio of them like this, and then take the ratio of the values of second line, x2 divided by y2. They will be equal. They will be equal. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you always understood. You always understand the things, but you never behave like you are understanding. Just saying yes, yes sir, is a cheating. Because when I ask a question, you don't answer correctly. When you answer correctly, then exactly it is clear if you understood. Okay, so when the two quantities are in direct proportion, then the ratio remains equal. See here, ratio between 1 and 10, 1 is to 10. Ratio between 5 and 50, 1 is to 10. Can you tell me, if you buy suppose 10 pence, how much you will pay? 10 pence, what will be the cost? 100 rupees. And what is the ratio between 10 and 100? Same ratio. Think of 50 pence. 50 pence, what is the cost? 500. What is the ratio? 50 and 500? 1 is to 10. This is what I am trying to say. Always the ratio between the two quantities is same. So here also ratio between x1 y1 and ratio in x2 y2 will be same. This ratio will be equal. This is an example here. Now let's come to the rule for inverse proportion. Next page. Rule for inverse proportion. Here also consider two quantities. Consider two quantities. Quantity A and quantity B. Let us make the table here as well. Quantity A, quantity B. Quantity A value is x1, quantity B value is y1. Quantity A value x2, quantity B value y2. Consider the two quantities, this and this, in inverse proportion. Inverse proportion. Okay, inverse proportion, quantity A, quantity B. So what will happen this time? Ratio will remain same or what? This time rule is that this time ratio is not same but product is same. In the first line you have these two, x1, y1, you will multiply them, and on the second line x2, y2, multiply x2, y2, they will be equal. See the example how. In the previous page we took the example of persons and days. Persons and days. Number of persons were 20, days were taken 10. Number of persons were decreased by number of days were decreased by 5, persons increased by 40, and days when became 20, persons became 10. Notice the product is always same. Multiply the numbers in the first line. What is the product? 200. Why are you sleeping? Product in the values of the second line, 40 into 5, 200. And the product in the third line, again 200. Product always remains same. 20 persons can do the work in 10 days, then 40 persons can do the work in 5 days, and 10 persons can do the same work in 20 days. But the product is always same. The same happens in every case whenever it is inverse proportion. Did you understand this?
Yes.
Okay. Now let us take some questions from our book and let us solve them. So our question is, Rima types 540 words, 540 words during half an hour. During half an hour. How many words? How many words would she type in 6 minutes? Would she type in 6 minutes? See, so this is a question and we need to solve it. Let us identify which two quantities are there in this question. First quantity, number of words. Second quantity, hours, half an hour. But wait, second quantity is time, but it has two different units, hour, minute. That is not good. If the same quantity in a question, in a single question has more than one units like this, then be careful. You will be wrong if you don't change them. Either make more both of them into hours, or make them both of them into minutes. So let us take it into minutes. Half an hour, minutes. Okay. There are two quantities. We have to make our table just like the table we made here. First quantity, second quantity. First value, second value, second value. So let's make a table. Words, minutes. I am considering minutes, not hours. So half an hour will become how many minutes? Are you sleeping? Number of words 540. Number of minutes 30. But in the second line, number of words is missing, not given. But time is given 6 minutes. Question is saying 540 words is typed in 30 minutes. So how many words will be typed in 6 minutes? This is the question. Well, before we solve it, you can write X in place of question mark. Wherever the things are missing, for the missing quantity, take X. Now you have to think, what is the relation between words and minutes? The two quantities, words and minutes. They are direct proportion or inverse proportion. You have to think, because the rules are different. If you apply opposite rule, answer will be wrong. So first decide what is the relation between them. Think and tell me. Are you sure about direct proportion?
Yes.
Okay. How did you know that? See, it's very simple. It's very simple. You can think, if you type lesser number of words, you take lesser time. If you have to type many pages, you will take more time. Isn't it? You are typing the words on computer. Suppose you have to type only 10 words, and you will take lesser number of time. Now you have to type 100 words. Don't you think you will need more time than the first case? So it's direct proportion. It's direct proportion. More words, more time. Lesser words, lesser time. Very simple. So you have to first mention they are in direct proportion. Since they are in what? Direct proportion. Proportion also is named as variation. Direct proportion or direct variation, that's the same thing. You can call it direct proportion or direct variation. Both are same. Meanings of both of them are same. Okay. And we know the rule, when they are in direct proportion, what remains same? Product or ratio? What remains same? Yes, ratio remains same. That means I will take the values in the first line, 540 and 30. Divide 540 by 30. And then I will take the values in the second line, x divided by 6. The ratios must be equal. And now see what happened. Now you got the equation. Now you got the equation. If you solve it, you will get the value of x. Answer will come out. So cross multiply 30 into x, 6 into 540. 30 into x equals 540 into 6. Don't multiply them, keep it as it is. Don't multiply and make bigger number. Keep it as it is because they are to be cancelled. X is equal to 540 into 6 divided by 30. 0 to 0 cancelled. 3 cancels 54 in 18 time. 3 18 ja 54. So 18 into 6. How much? How much? 18 into 6?
$108.
Oh my god, you don't remember times table. 108. 108 words will be typed in 6 minutes. Any question? Let's take next example. If 52 men can do a piece of work in X days, sorry, 35 days. 35 days. In how many days? In how many days 28 men will do it? This is the question. So how many quantities are used in this question? How many quantities came?
Oh,
First quantity is men. Second quantity days, right?
yes.
Just like that example, previous example, we were taking persons and days. Here men and days, that's the same thing. So let's make table. Men, days. When there are 52 men working, they take 35 days. In the second line it says when 28 men will be working, how many days? 28 men. For men it's 28, for days nothing given. So let's take X. Now before we move on, we have to check if the two quantities men and days are direct variation or indirect variation, inverse variation? Do you think more persons will work in more time and lesser persons will work in lesser time?
Yes.
No. More persons will work in lesser time and lesser number of persons will take more time.
More time.
If I alone is doing, I'm doing a work, maybe I will take 30 days. But if there are 5 persons like me doing the same work, they will take 30 more than 30 days or lesser than 30 days? Of course, lesser than 30. So persons increase, days decrease. This is inverse variation. We have to mention it. Since men and days are in what? Inverse variation. You can write inverse variation or inverse proportion. Why do we call it inverse proportion? Did you notice? See in this example. In this example, what is the ratio in 20 and 40? 1:2. And what is the ratio between 10 and 5? 2:1. Right?
Yes, sir.
1:2, 2:1. Isn't it inverse?
Yes, sir.
This type of relations are known as inverse variation. That's why, that's the reason. Okay. So these are inverse variation. What will be equal? Product or ratio? Okay. So the values in the first line, 52 into 35. 52 into 35. And values in the second line, 28 into x will be equal. Product will be equal. Now we can get the value of x. If we want to get the value of x, 28 will come in the denominator here. So x is equal to 52 into 35 divided by 28. Cancel out and you will get the answer. 7 5 ja 35, 7 4 ja 28, and 4 13 ja 52. So 13 into 5 is 65. We got 65. 65 days is the answer. Okay. If you have any query, tell me. Okay. Let's take one more question. Did you understand the difference between direct and inverse variation things?
Sir, your voice is cutting.
My voice is not okay.
It's okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Sir, now it is okay.
A person has money to buy 25 bicycles worth rupees 500 each. How many bicycles he will be can he buy if each bicycle is costing rupees 125 more. Did you understand the question?
I don't understand, sir.
Sir, I do not understand it.
Earlier, one bicycle was costing 500 rupees. How much was the cost of one bicycle earlier?
Sir, 500.
But now the cost of one bicycle is 125 more. What is the meaning? How much is the cost?
That means 625.
625.
When the cost of one bicycle was 500, he could buy 25 bicycles total. But he has the same amount of money. He has still the same amount of money, but the cost of one bicycle increased and become 625. We have to find out how many bicycles can he buy now. Any idea?
Sir, it is an invoice value.
So how many quantities we have to consider? See, we don't have to consider the money. Why? Why don't we consider this? Because money is the same thing in both cases. We have to consider number of bicycles and cost of one bicycle. Okay? Number of bicycles, cost of one bicycle. These are the two quantities. According to the question, he could buy 25 bicycles earlier when the cost of one bicycle was 500. But now the cost of one bicycle is given 625. It is telling 125 more. More means you will add. So 625. How many bicycles? Here is the missing thing. Let us take it X. Okay, before we find the value of x, let us find out what is the relation between the two. Are they direct? Are they in direct variation or inverse variation?
Sir, inverse.
See, if cost increases, I'll give you another example to understand this. Suppose I go to a veg market. I want to buy some vegetables. Suppose I have total 100 rupees. How much? I have total 100 rupees and I want to buy potatoes. Suppose I go, suppose someone comes from the market in my neighborhood. I ask him, what is the cost of potato in today's market? He tells me the cost is 20 rupees per kg. 20 rupees per kg. 1 kg 20 rupees. So how many kgs I can buy with my money?
Sir, 5.
5 kgs, because I have 100 rupees and cost is only 20 rupees per kg. So I can buy 5 kgs. So when I ask to my neighbor what is the cost of potato, rate of the potato in the market today, he tells me it's 20 rupees per kg. I'm happy. I will buy 5 kgs of potato in my money. When I take my grocery bag or bag, any bag, I go to market with that money, ask for the rate. The shopkeeper tells me it's now 25 per kg. Cost per kg increases or decreases?
Increases.
How many kgs I'll be able to buy for the same money?
So 4 kg.
Only 4 kgs. Right? When it was 20 rupees per kg, I could buy 5 kgs of potatoes. But when I went to the market, due to some reason, it became costlier, 5 rupees more per kg. So due to the increased cost per kg, increased rate, now I can buy only 4 kgs. Did you notice? Cost per kg increases, quantity decreases. So they are inverse proportion. Here is the same thing. In place of potato, it is bicycles, not potatoes but bicycles. So cost per bicycle increases, number of bicycles will be lesser, not more. It's x means lesser than 25, not more than 25. Right or wrong? Understood?
Yes. Yes.
Good evening, Maya. Good evening, Aranjan. I'm doing good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a live class going on. It's a live class. There are students in the class. I have streamed it on YouTube as well. लाइव क्लास चल रही थी, क्लास 8 के बच्चे हैं और मैंने इसको YouTube पर स्ट्रीम कर दिया है, लाइव स्ट्रीम, so that others can also take advantage. ये एक पेड बैच है, पेड बच्चे हैं जो 1-to-1 करके, मतलब छोटा सा ग्रुप है, 2-3 बच्चे हैं बस. Well, so we now understand they are inverse proportion. Since they are in inverse variation or proportion. So, what do you think will be same this time, ratio or product? No answer. Product will be same. They are inverse variation, so product will be same. 25 into 500 and x into 625 will be equal. Now if you calculate x this way, you will get the answer 25 into 500 divided by 625. Okay, 25 25 ja and 25 20 ja. So 20 bicycles can be, see, lesser than 25. Only 20 bicycles can be bought. Okay students, the class is over. I hope you have understood direct and inverse variations. So do these type of questions. I will send you homework on Telegram. Do sufficient practice so that you can be efficient. Okay, bye bye. See you in the next class.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.